Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We review anything and everything. Today we are getting into this Abelisaurus. Funny enough, I looked it up and he's actually part of the Carnotaurus family line. I don't know how far removed because a lot of his features, features and details of him as a dinosaur itself, not the figure, don't seem to me to like make me think he would have been a part of that family line. But we're gonna get into it now. He is part of this Jurassic World Wild Roar line segment. And we just did a review on one of the dinosaurs similar to this, Abelisaurus, if I'm saying that correctly. And I'm gonna bring that one into frame to compare something when I went into details about the tail in that figure and comparing how this one actually has a smaller tail, but similar body size. So it has the action feature up and down with the tail, and then later on you'll see on the back it shows that he has the turning feature on his tail too, similar to the one that I just mentioned, which was that one right there. Having those features, all of these have that same feature, but yes. So jumping into the figure, here he goes, Abelisaurus. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, but I think I've heard that name before. Similar to that other figure that I just showed you and reviewed, that red one on there, Abelisaurus, if I'm saying that right, Abelisaurus. They no longer twist at the ankle, and I don't have a problem with that because it's one less joint to get loose, because I don't think anyone ever used it for anything other than stability, and you aren't gonna find stability problems with this dinosaur. So that's not a thing that you have to worry about. The extra texture of scaling looks nice, even though it's different. So I wonder, is that a thing where they assumed that area is supposed to be there? I wonder if that's scientifically accurate to something that takes place there. Like maybe, for example, something that it hunted would normally attack it in that area, because those scales definitely look so pronounced and different than the rest of the scaling on it. Like it's very much like purposefully put there. So I think that's interesting. Now this dinosaur, I think the way the hands are here are very kind of funny, and you can't, I don't know why, but they're just like this. Can I fold them in? Yeah, they are. I don't know why they were like that in that position, but they're stiffly in that position. So I guess I'll retract the comment I was gonna say on them about them hanging out like that. But what I did want to say also though is that if this dinosaur is related to the Carnotaurus family, which like I said before, the good question is how far removed, because these arms don't look reminiscent of a Carnotaurus in any really way. Here you have this little piece of flesh hanging down, which reminds me of a Majungasaurus to a degree. The actual Majungasaurus, I think within the line of this series, they didn't make it look like it had the flap, but I remember seeing on a nature show before that it had something like that. So you have that deep coloration of the skin here, which is nice. You also, as always, you get this nice separate molded teeth that just come standards now in the main line, which I'm glad the main line has so many features that are trickled down from it from the Hammond collection. The tongue is done nicely as always now. You got the little jaw muscles too. You got a little ridge on the back. You got that nice paint job where the paint is dark up here. Very bright, very colorful. It almost reminds me of a turkey. And it's funny because going hand in hand with the line that the kid said in the very first Jurassic Park movie to Alan Grant, it looks like a 6-foot turkey. Yes, this looks like a turkey to a degree, but it's cool. Maybe that there's a reason for it. Dinosaur experts do speculate that there were a lot of dinosaurs that had flowing colors for the purpose of, or flaps of skin for the purpose of, you know, displaying and challenging rivals along with getting a mate. So you see the details here. You can scan that if you will. Obviously the speaker's there, so it lets you know he's got sound action going on. Now this right here would go all the way down, but obviously I had to put that space for the action because his tail's gonna go up and down. But other than that, it looks nice. He's got the ridge on him, a little bit extra detailing, you know, coming down the tail, and not paint, but sculpting these bumps, ridges. So here goes his action. It's up and down. Now, the natural position of his tail to have the curve go like that does kind of hinder, but this is the natural position of the tail because you can see the ridge continues straight like that. And I say it's harder to go downwards. So that's the only thing with that. Does this turn? Yeah, it does. So if I turn that, it doesn't look right, but it's a little bit easier to come down on. but we'll keep that in that same position. So you got the spinning. And try to get that fluid motion. It feels less fluid than the other dinosaur that I did this with, the Accurosaurus, but nonetheless, you kind of get it. Now, once again, the mouth is open naturally, and when you move it, it snaps closed. I would have preferred it the other way around. Now, one thing I just wanted to get into is I mentioned with the Accurosaurus, and if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm sorry about that, that how it had a more substantial, longer tail. And what's interesting is that is true. And when you look at these dinosaurs, they both stand at different positions. Do I have him standing up high? Is that what it is? Let me see if I can stand him lower and if that looks better for him. Okay, it does, but it does throw off the feet a little bit because the feet are a little bit warped. And this is where the whole twisting of the ankles do come into play. As a positive. And like I said, that was the reason. You can see here that they're a little bit bent inwards. That was the reason for why they were a benefit. And if you didn't have stability problems, then it wouldn't matter. Like that one's the same way, and he doesn't have that problem. So it's just, in a way, it could be a positive to counteract bad mold warping, but nonetheless, it all depends. I think this should be his natural standing position height than the one that I had him at. So that's a thing there. And he's barely able to stand right now. So I guess I got to retract the fact that, like I said, I don't mind because you don't have to worry about the joints getting loose. But at the same time, if your thing is not warped properly, now you can put hot water and try to warp it correct, get it to bend the correct way. But his feet should have been a little bit more spread out and like that. And then that way it would have carried the weight a little bit more. But when they crunch back in on themselves, it's not bad, but you could tell it might run that risk of falling, but we'll see. But anyway, I would like to keep them in their correct position because sometimes you can elevate them higher and they can go into that position, but that probably wouldn't be their natural position distributing their weight. Now, what I wanted to show with this, that's weird, is that my table's warped because in here he stands differently than he's standing over here a little bit, and I don't know why. But anyway, what I wanted to show was that how some dinosaurs just have longer tails. His tail is a fraction of the length to the later part of his tail. You can see where the bend is. Let me line up those bend where the line is. I'm sorry. And you can see that difference. And I will tell you in measurement. And the reason why I'm just doing this, because I made a comment in that previous video about how some dinosaurs might naturally have longer tails, but the way they do it is they will, this segment, these parts came separate and I had to attach them. How some of them, they'll make them longer, some of them they won't. And even though this doesn't make him look disproportionate, it's still a lengthy tail, just more beefy. It's kind of like the difference between a T-Rex and an Allosaurus. A T-Rex tail looks good in terms of balancing, it's substantial for size, but not as long because more of a hefty tail, similar to how this is similar more to like a T-Rex, where that's similar more to Allosaurus, where we've got such a super long tail that almost doesn't make sense. Now, if I angle it with the curve, it's 4 inches, and for his, it's like just about 3. So it's about an inch longer in that. So I just wanted to show that and reflect that on there. Now what I'm gonna do, they both were relatively in the same scale. But for those who are seeing this video and didn't see that video, I'm now bringing this human into play for the line. This was the enemy in Jurassic World Rebirth. I don't know his name. I probably should learn it if I'm always going to be including him inside the videos. But right now I cannot find, somewhere within the toy chest is my Owen, my kid's Owen figure. So anyway, he is now perfectly aligned with him. And I would say that doing this measurement, he actually is a little bit shorter in height than the Accurosaurus, as far as this one is 4.5 inches, while the Accurosaurus was 4 3/4. And obviously the figure is 3 3/4 in height. That length is not going to be as long either, but it's not a bad length. It's just not as long, but I don't think his tail is short by any means for the size of his body. He is a total of, I want to say, 12 inches. He's 12 inches long because the other one was 13 inches long, so an inch less inside that length. But his tail is a good, at this angle here, it's about 4 3/4, which is not bad for a figure that is, what did I just say, 12 inches long. That's not bad. So we're gonna do these measurements here in the calculator. So we got 12 inches long and 4.5 inches tall. So 4.5 inches tall. So that puts him at 7.2 feet tall, and his 12 inches long puts him at 19.2 inches, 19.2 inches long. I'm sorry, 19.2 feet long. So what did I say? His height was 7.2 feet tall and 19.2 feet long would be his scaling. So not bad. I don't know what his actual size is, but if you look it up, Google it, Wikipedia it, you can see if it matches with these measurements that I just gave you. And if so, then yes, this figure, that's what he would be measuring accurately. Sometimes they might be a little bit off, but I still think that this Jurassic World lines cover within a good range of it. Even if it's close enough, you could just simply say that that's the average size of the dinosaur, not the max size, because often what's depicted in these online searches of the size of the dinosaurs, I believe, is trying to depict the maximum size. But as always, you guys, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.